SpaceX leadership is making their way to Capitol Hill on Wednesday with the aim of advocating for more efficiency in the regulatory approval process from the Federal Aviation Administration. Their goal is to streamline the issuance of launch licenses for both Starship test flights and routine Falcon 9 rocket missions. However, ahead of the hearing, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has informed that the regulatory approval process for the second Starship test flight could potentially extend until the spring of 2024. In a statement released on Tuesday, a spokesperson from Fish and Wildlife Service explained that their agency received the final biological assessment from the FAA on October 5, and they have up to 30 days to review it. This request for review came after the FAA sent a letter to Fish and Wildlife Service in August, requesting the reinitiation of Endangered Species Act consultation. According to the spokesperson, the reinitiation of formal consultation is required under Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act. When there are significant changes in the project's impacts, when the previously issued take exceeds the limit, when new information on listed species arises, or when a new species is listed. In the case of SpaceX's reinitiation with the FAA, the Fish and Wildlife Service is considering the operation of a water deluge system. This new deluge system is one of the 63 corrective actions listed, as part of the SpaceX-led mishap investigation, following the unsuccessful launch of the first integrated flight test on April 20, 2023. In their efforts to address these regulatory concerns, SpaceX leadership is seeking a more efficient and streamlined process that would allow them to proceed with their Starship test flights and Falcon 9 rocket missions in a timely manner. The system has been utilized a few times, including for a couple of static fire tests of Booster 9, which is scheduled to be the next rocket to launch for SpaceX, alongside Ship 25. Just a day after stacking the rocket, the company decided to unstack it on Tuesday. In a post on the social media site X, SpaceX mentioned that Starship is fully stacked while the team prepares for a launch rehearsal. We are actively collaborating with the FAA to obtain a launch license. However, it seems that obtaining the license may still take some time. After the FAA completes its 30-day review of the final biological assessment, the FWS has a period of 135 days to issue an amended biological opinion. This 135-day period includes a formal consultation period, which could potentially last up to 90 days, as well as the process of crafting the biological opinion, which has a time frame of 45 days. We understand that this process may seem lengthy, but rest assured that SpaceX is committed to working closely with the relevant authorities to ensure all necessary requirements are met. There is increasing political pressure for the launch of SpaceX's Starship program, as the company's vice president, Bill Gerstenmaier, is set to testify before the Senate Subcommittee on Space and Science. The panel will focus on U.S. commercial human space activities, covering a range of topics from suborbital flights to lunar surface habitats. For SpaceX, the key focus is on the human landing system for the Artemis 3 and Artemis 4 missions for NASA. However, before NASA authorizes its astronauts to fly aboard Starship, several demonstration flights will be required, including ship-to-ship refueling and an uncrewed lunar landing. In a recent interview, a senior SpaceX official expressed concerns about the backlog with FAA work, which has led to difficult decisions regarding the agency's priorities for their launch vehicles. The official emphasized the critical importance of licensing for Starship, in order to meet the needs of the Artemis program, and operate at a higher cadence of flights in the coming year. Unfortunately, the regulatory approval process is moving slowly, and there is a possibility that the turnaround time for licensing could extend to a year or more. This delay is not ideal for the program, and it is important for all parties involved to work together, to ensure a smoother and more efficient process. Overall, it is crucial to understand the challenges and pressures faced by SpaceX and other companies involved in commercial human space activities. By empathizing with their concerns and working towards solutions, we can support the progress and success of these important missions. The competition to reach the moon is heating up, and NASA's Associate Administrator, Gerstenmaier, is concerned about the regulatory environment. He believes that even small delays in test flights can add up and eventually cause the U.S. to lose its lead in the race to the moon. China is a formidable competitor, and Gerstenmaier fears that they may land on the moon before the U.S. does. The FAA has stated that keeping pace with industry demand is a priority, as it is crucial for national security and civil exploration needs. NASA's Artemis program is working hard to return humans to the lunar surface, for the first time in over 50 years, but they are racing against China's own plans to develop a moon base. SpaceX has faced pushback over its first test flight, with environmental advocates suing the FAA over the incident. However, SpaceX has claimed that explosions of its rockets are welcome in the early stages of development, as it helps inform design quicker than ground tests. Despite these challenges, SpaceX is still working hard on Starship development. However, it remains unclear whether they can meet NASA's goal of having Starship ready for a lunar landing by late 2025. It's a tough race, but we can only hope that the US can maintain its lead and achieve its goal of returning to the moon. During the recent hearing, the challenges ahead for meeting NASA's requirements were thoroughly examined and discussed. The spokesperson, in a brief interview with CNN, emphasized that the only way to overcome these obstacles is by actively engaging in flight operations. However, SpaceX, the prominent space exploration company, has been grappling with the allocation of resources, due to the prevailing uncertainty surrounding their launch license. Despite the dedicated efforts of SpaceX's workforce, who have been working tirelessly and even taking on extra shifts, to ensure the readiness of their vehicles, they have unfortunately been unable to conduct any flights. The company's inability to fly is primarily attributed to the regulatory uncertainty surrounding their launch license, which has hindered their ability to establish a more productive and efficient schedule. In light of these circumstances, it is highly likely that SpaceX will resort to conducting more ground tests to make the most of the available time and resources. However, the regulatory uncertainty continues to pose a significant challenge, preventing the company from progressing as desired. As observers of the situation, we empathize with the difficulties that SpaceX is currently facing. The company's commitment to innovation and pushing the boundaries of space exploration is commendable, and it is our sincere hope that they receive the necessary support and guidance to overcome these challenges. By doing so, SpaceX can continue to contribute to the advancement of space technology and fulfill NASA's requirements in a timely and efficient manner. That's it for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Please let us know what you think in the comments section down below. Your feedback is very important to us, because it helps us make better videos for you, so thank you very much and we hope to see you again next time.